welcome to Energy Perspective, where we explore the Enneagram from a slightly different perspective. So I wanted to make a video today because we have recently been having a lot of conversations around the stress and security point of the Enneagram and how it plays into the broader personality and how it can get expressed. And we stumbled upon something that appears to be fairly embedded into the Enneagram system itself, but is never really talked about. So I put together a bit of a presentation, and if you'd like to follow me along, I would love to share it. So basically what we're doing is we're talking about a mechanism, a system that is in place within the body that actually has a purpose and it has a cycle that it runs, and it's on an automated system. So before I go on, I want to make a quick caveat. So life happens, real challenges, real trauma. It can shake a person up in ways that go well beyond what I'm going to describe. And that deserves its own proper conversation, not a few rushed minutes here. So for the sake of actually explaining this clearly, I'm deliberately going to leave the bigger life-built stuff out of this one, and we're just going to look at the mechanics of what happens when someone's everyday worldview gets challenged. Nothing heavier than that, I promise. So every personality carries a built-in belief system, a quiet set of assumptions about yourself, other people, and how the world works. Most days, it just sits in the background doing its thing, like music you've stopped noticing is even playing. And then something challenges it. And depending on your type, that can knock your whole worldview sideways. You know, defensiveness, anger, withdrawal, or your own type's particular flavor of, wait, what? That reaction isn't a flaw. It's your personality trying to protect what it believes, the only way it knows how. Under pressure, your type doesn't become a different person. It amplifies the strategy it already uses. And you might notice this in yourself. When you start to get stressed, you start to amplify the normal behaviors that you would typically have. For example, a 7 looks for more options, or a 2 cares more, or an 8 controls more, until at some point it becomes obvious it's not actually working. And that's when the stress tool becomes available. So it's not a place you go to when you're stressed necessarily, but it is an automated response when your own set of tools can't handle the particular situation that you're in. And the purpose of it coming online is it presents a different viewpoint that isn't normally available to your type. So for example, the 7 gets more focused and structured, and which stops the endless search for more options. The 2 gets more demanding, recognizing they deserve care too. And the 8 pulls inward instead of pushing outward, realizing the force kind of isn't always the answer. And because all of this is happening while the stress hormones are flowing, this new insight often arrives messily. You know, the 7 can turn critical, and the 2 can turn controlling, and the 8 can get secretive. But a new perspective has been found, and that opens the next shift. So the security tool takes on that new insight and properly integrates it. The 7 slows down and actually thinks about what's in front of them. The 2 realizes they're worthy of love and not just being useful. And the 8 learns that care and vulnerability balance their strength. By the end of the cycle, there's new information on the table, and the old belief gets a chance to upgrade. The next time it doesn't get quite triggered as easily, and that's growth. No special potion required. It's just, that's what happens. But here's the catch. The mechanism only stays visible if the system around it stays simple. A good framework has to be able to rule things out, stack on a wing, and then a subtype, then a tritype, and suddenly it can explain almost anything about almost anyone, which can sound impressive until you realize a system that's never wrong isn't really telling you anything. It just sounds very confident. So you stack on enough variables onto a personality system, and sure, almost anyone can be told almost anything and it'll sound convincing. It's also exactly what makes sensible, skeptical people quietly write the whole thing off, which is a shame, because underneath all the extra noise, the actual mechanism holds up perfectly well on its own. So we teach core type, plus the 2 lines everyone already has, and that's it. Not because wings or subtypes are wrong exactly, just that for what we do, connecting personality to stress, health, and growth, more variables don't add insight, they add noise. And noise is exactly what gets in the way of the mechanism that actually works and matters. You don't have to take our word for this. Next time you come across the Enneagram content, including ours, just ask yourself a few questions. Does it rule anything out? Could you, in principle, be told you're not the type it first suggested? Is there room for movement in there? Does it lean on a clear structure or keep adding new categories the moment something doesn't quite fit? And do you actually understand what each layer means? Can you integrate that into your own life easily? So done well, the Enneagram is a genuinely sharp tool. It's specific enough to be useful, simple enough to actually check against your own life. That's the only version we think is worth teaching. And over the coming weeks, we'll see how this plays out in each type individually, what specifically gets challenged, and what growth actually looks like when it does. And that's applying this mechanism. Or if you'd rather find out sooner, a professional typing session is the best place to start. One confirmed type, no stacking required. And you can find all our information on ENRGperspective.com. That's ENRG perspective.com.